Hello and welcome. I would like to welcome you to a new Let's Play, to a new world, to a new universe, to a new galaxy, not so far, far away, to Aurora 4X. Before I start, Aurora 4X is quite the interesting title, and I'm going to be perfectly honest. I've heard of it a few times in the last couple of years, and only recently actually seen gameplay, and it piqued my interest. My interest went from here to through the moon. So I started looking into it a little bit more, and I was highly intrigued. So what we're going to do today is we are going to start a new game, and this is the icon. So I'm moving it off screen so that I can start it up, and there you go. This is the start of Aurora 4X. Now, if you're familiar with Aurora 4X, you will know this screen intimately well, because you will probably see it once every 5 or 6 hours of gameplay, on average, because Aurora 4X is brutal. You've got roguelikes, then you have games like Aurora. Now, Aurora 4X has been hailed as the dwarf fortress of space games, which I can kind of see, but at the same time, I really don't. I almost see it as a mingling between Civilization, Dwarf Fortress, and maybe even something along the lines of like Game Dev Tycoon or something like that. And the reason for that is because it gets the Dwarf Fortress moniker because the graphics are incredibly simple. It gets the Civilization moniker because it's all about building colonies, building new outposts, mining minerals, researching technology, building military units, that kind of thing. And then taking those military units and going to your neighbors and just wiping them out with the push of a button. Click. And then the whole like Software Inc. and Game Dev Tycoon, because it's a simulator in its purest form. I'm sure that if we were to like tear the game open and start looking, it would just be a humongous, like 50 billion megabyte Excel spreadsheet / access database with a nice, smooth skidding graphical interface laid over the top of it. So tables upon tables upon tables upon tables after spreadsheet after spreadsheet after spreadsheet. And this is just the interface that we see. So we're going to start up here, and we're going to go Liquids LP verse. All right, now I'm going to set a master password here, just one key, and that's only so that I don't accidentally turn it on and start mucking about. Now, starting year. This truly does not have any bearing on technology or population or advancement or other races or anything like that. This is purely cosmetic. I like to start it in the year 2000. That way it's easy for me to tell at a very quick glance how many years I've actually played in the game. Now, I picked 2000 also because that whole year 1999, end of the world is coming and so forth and so on, and think of this as an alternate universe, right? New Year's Eve, 1999. January 31st, just say a spaceship appears above Times Square. All right? And it doesn't say anything. It just says, hi, and then it kills the entire population of the planet for no reason. And we're left with, I'm going to go down to 250 million people. That's all that's left alive. Okay? And the only people that are left alive are like the ones that are, at remote military locations or living in the woods, and they just kind of, were oblivious to everything. These are like the recluse people that have to rebuild our civilization as a whole. So that is why I start in the year 2000. And it kind of, it feels right to me. And when the survivors make it to New York or wherever this spaceship appeared, they find a little canister, you know, and this canister is like, they open it up and inside is this revelation that we are not alone in the universe, and that there's these things called trans-Newtonian elements, and this is how to find them, this is what they are. We're a random alien race. We did this just for the fun of it. Come kill us if you can. So that's kind of my role-play mentality behind this. So maximum number of systems. Aurora 4X, like I said, creates this spreadsheet for them, and in that it creates each star system uniquely, individually, and completely different from the previous time you played it. 1,000 systems. That is massive. I mean, we could make this that big if we wanted. Although, you know, so 1,000 gives us plenty of room to explore. Difficulty modifier, that's, you know, okay, normal difficulty. So we could make this 200, and it, you know, it'd be like Warlord, or, well, probably like 225 would be like Warlord level on Civilization, and like 1,000 would be like Deity, right? So we're going to leave it at normal. Race generation chance, NPR player versus player. So when you explore a new solar system in Aurora, there's a chance that whoever's exploring it will create a new race in that solar system. So for us, there's a 30% chance. And once we find the first one, when they start exploring, there's a 10% chance that every time they visit a new solar system that I haven't visited or another race hasn't visited, that they generate another populate, another civilization, another unique race. So once you start exploring and you find that first alien race, it can grow exponentially, and you could end up with just one race that you have to fight against, or you could end up with 100. Considering there's only 1,000 systems in the game, it's more likely to be like, you know, 20 or 30 at most. Construction cycle time per second. I'm not quite sure what this is. The time in seconds between production cycles, like everything but movement, detection, combat, is seconds. Default is 400,000. Warning, reducing this may have a significant effect on performance. Okay, so what this is saying is, because Aurora is a turn-based game, and what this is saying, if I'm understanding it correctly, is that you have the start of your turn, and you click a time interval, say 5 days, because that's how the game calculates. Because that's 400,000, I think, right? So let's see. Let me open my calculator here. So let's take 400,000. Divided by 60, right? So that's hours. Divided by 24. So that's 277 days. That's not right. So let's take 4 times 24 times 60 times 60. So it's roughly a little over 4 days, right? Or a little over 5 days in game time. Minimum comets per system. So you can have a system that generates with absolutely nothing in it, or you can have one that has as many as, you know, like, I don't know, 100, 1,000, 10,000, and you can tell the game. Oops, my sound just went off, which I really don't need. You can tell the system, the computer, that I want a minimum of 10 comics per system. And the reason for that is because the game will put mineral deposits on comets almost 100% of the time. So you can have a system with just a star and absolutely nothing in it. And if you have a minimum requirement of comets in it, it will put at least X amount of comets in there. We're going to leave it at 0. Terran Federation. Loquidian Alliance. And like we said, you know, our Earth has been decimated by an alien race, and we need to align ourselves and form ourselves into a coherent nation, and you know, whatever, and go off and kill these guys. So that's that. Federation, Empire short name. Alliance. We're going to leave human and Earth, because why not? Player race, I have not messed around with this, but it supposedly gives you different options as far as how to treat your people, different tax rates, production rates, growth rates, etc., etc. I'm just going to leave it on player race. Main empire theme. This is, well, basically where the survivors are located. Let's put it that way. This is where the remaining 250 million humans, this is where they come from. So this is where their naming scheme is going to come from. And you have fictional stuff, you have realistic stuff, you have mythical stuff, you have, you know, like Orc Rebel Alliance, which is Star Wars, I believe. Let's see. Like, where's this one? Barsoom, which is Mars. Well, it's an alternate reality of Mars, which is the John Carter of Mars series. So if you've seen that or that movie, or you've read those books, the names in this will seem familiar to you. So we're just going to stick with the default because it's what I know, and we're going to go with United States. Empire or Commander theme, English, again, same thing. This is the language that people spoke, so the themes of the commanders, so like America, it's going to be Admiral, Vice Admiral, Captain, Lieutenant, and so forth and so on. Trans-Newtonian Empire versus conventional. So in the roleplay sense of what I've been talking about here, conventional would say in that canister that we found, there was nothing but just the basic empire, or the basic information of this is what these items are, this is how to find them, and that's it, right? This would say here is the technology to use them, the basic core technology, and with that you get a starting amount of points down here. So you could say, you know, what is that, 100 million? So there's 1 billion starting technology points, and that tin would have all this technology, just random free technology. Like here's jump gate technology, here's ion propulsion drive technology, here's better economy technology, better production technology, here's armor technologies, and so forth and so on. But we're going to stick with conventional, because these guys, they want us to have a hard time. You know, they're being complete jackasses about it. We just killed, you know what, 99, the planet was like 6.5 billion, I think, or somewhere around there. So we just killed 6,250,000,000 people on your planet. All right, manufacturing sector limit, wealth creation, industrial percentage. We're going to leave all this stuff at basics, except research facilities. I'm going to put that at 10. Because in all honesty, with as many universities as there are, and as many well-known universities, you've got MIT, you've got, what is it, you know, Notre Dame, and, you know, all the big, huge universities and colleges around the world, there's a minimum of 10 left surviving. There has to be, period. I can't believe that there'd be 2 left. So, jump points. This is a very, very, very important thing. If you put it at 0, the game will randomly generate a number of jump points in your system. Anywhere from 1 to X amount. Put a minimum of 6 in there. The reason for that is because if you get a system with just 1, it could lead to another system with just 1, to another system with just 1, to a system with nothing. So you're literally in this dead-end box canyon of a game with no way to go find other races, other civilizations, and ultimately kick the aliens' butts of who killed Earth. This is little cheaty hack stuff here. System body survey completed, jump point survey completed. We'll cover those a little bit later on. One thing to make sure you click is to make sure that this no missile bases for conventional start is clicked, because they're completely useless. This is ICBM nuclear missile technology, and it is completely, utterly, universally obsolete now. I'm not really going to go over this stuff. If you really want to read it, you can pause it. However, we are going to turn this one to 0. We know there's at least one other race out there. The game will create at least one. But we're going to leave it at 0 because we don't want them off creating other races themselves as they explore and get powerful themselves. Create only non-trans-Newtonian empire races. So they have to start just like we do. Oh, excuse me. So you've got, generate Sol system as creating empire, or you can create your own from scratch. So if you're playing with a fictional one like Warhammer, 40,000, you can click create your own and create, recreate the solar system of that fictional universe, right? But we're going to leave it on this because we're on Earth. NPR computer opponents. Going to leave this stuff on. Non-player races, which is NPRs. Create one or more computer-controlled opponent. NPRs will start in systems generated by the Aurora and hidden from the Space Master, which technically is us. Number of computer-controlled empires at game start. Game performance will be affected by the number of NPRs. And that right there is also another reason why we're turning this off. Because as you expand out, the performance of this game will shrink. So our turns will go from lightning fast, just like in Dwarf Fortress, when you first start the game, it's running at like 600 frames per second. But the moment you start doing something, crunch, 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 and things slow down to 30 frames per second. Same kind of thing here. The turns will go from instant to, however long the computer has to do to calculate and crunch numbers. Generate empires as NPRs. Any new race created during system generation will be computer controlled. Manually created empires will still be accessible. And I believe that is about all I want to check. Oh, yes, I want to turn asteroid movement on. If you're running on a slower machine that is significantly older, you're going to want to uncheck both of these. That's because the game simulates the orbits internally. However, you can turn that off so that you don't see it, so that it doesn't take up that extra processing power. And asteroids is significant because there's tens of thousands of millions, billions of asteroids in this game that it has to simulate every single time. So the more systems you get, those asteroids that the game has to simulate just grow exponentially. More and more and more. So we're done with this. Let's create game. Wow. What is this? Race generation complete. Starting industry has been created based on the population size and government type. This may be modified by the Space Master on the population window. If there is this is a race with transmutating capability, appropriate ships, ordnance, and fighters should be added based on 2 years of production at current levels. Any non-player empires will now be created, which we told it none. Now that's my race. That is this stuff over here. Specifically, the starting year, irrelevant. So that's this stuff right here. It created that. It created this. And that's it. Well, and this. Now it's going to generate the rest of the universe. And it's not even really creating the universe because it creates a universe on the fly as you explore. So you jump into a new solar system, it generates that system on the fly. So it's really all it's doing is it's plotting out the locations, plotting out the jump points between these systems. And that's it. So here we go. Again, we can tell it to change the year if we want. We can modify this stuff at a later point. No disasters, nominal all systems, minimal comments. We can reset all that stuff. And if you have multiple games going, they will show up here. So if I had, Loquid's LPverse 2, it would show up there. And you can, again, create another game just from there if you want. So let's hit go. And this is Aurora. Not my background. This. So we got a bunch of menus here. What is all this stuff? This is the craziness that is a spreadsheet simulation program. So you've got all these shortcuts in here that you can do. Specifically, you're going to be worried about these ones right here, F2 through F12. The only one I use is F3. It didn't pop it up because I minimized it. So let's hit F3. And that is your universe. This is the game interface. It's not pretty, it's not glamorous, it's not even well laid out at times. But it is functional, which is the most important thing, right? I mean, because the more you play, the more graphically demanding it's going to become. Well, the more processor intensive it's going to become. So you want to have as little graphics as possible because that keeps the overhead down. So it shows these graphics, right? So let's say it uses this much memory for these graphics. The next system it has to create, it uses this much, and then this much, and then this much, and then this much. So your CPU is here, but your graphics is all the way up here, and the game, once you hit a certain threshold, would never be able to keep up. So before we get started, there's a couple things we want to check. So here are your tabs up here. This corresponds to those function keys most of the time. This is your scrolling. You can scroll around. Okay, you can also click on an object to zoom to it. You can zoom in. You can zoom out. And you can see a scale here. Okay, so I am maximum 5.3 thousand kilometers for this little distance of a line. Now if we hold shift and click and drag, it'll give us a distance. I love this. So if we click here, go there, you can see 5,000 kilometers for that little bit of a line. Now we can zoom out further and further and further and further and further, all the way to the 2.4 light year distance. And as you can see, oops, gave me an error because I went too far. Yep. So that's the maximum distance that the game can show. Now let's zoom back into minimum zoom and then zoom in. And I'm going to leave that as it is for the moment. Next, I'm going to come over here to the solar system information panel. So if you have multiple solar systems that you have explored, they will show up here. Right now we just have Sol, which is our home system. You've got all of these things that you can display. You've got orbital paths you can turn off. You've got names you can turn off. You've got objects you can turn off. You want colonies on. You don't need comet paths on, that's just ugly. Movement tails you need on. Trust me, it helps out tremendously. Fleets we want to have on. We don't have any at the moment. We don't need asteroid names. We don't need moon names. We don't need dwarf planet names. Or we do want planet and star names. Orbital paths, stars, sure, if we have a binary, trinary, and quadrinary system, we want to see that stuff. Planets, we need to see that, because that helps us find the planet. Dwarf planets, not so much. Moons, not so much. Asteroids, definitely not, because that's a lot of clutter. Now, as you can see, the game has to when I was talking about the orbital path for asteroids and planets, every system, it has to calculate the movement for each one of those lines, because there's a spatial body on every one of those lines, and every move you take, it has to calculate it for the amount of time that that move is going to take. So that's why if you're running on a not so powerful machine, you want to keep those off. But we're going to keep the paths of that off. Jump points, we don't have any right now, except these little white circles will turn into jump points in the future. We want to see those. Planets, that would be helpful to have on. So we got Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. And as we zoom out, we've got Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto. Where's Pluto? Pluto is a dwarf planet. In fact, let's see if we can find Pluto. Turn names on. Oh, well, there's Kaor, Orcus, Makemake. Where's Pluto? There's Eris, Senda. Pluto isn't here. To be honest, I don't know where Pluto is. It should be somewhere around in here. Ah, there's Pluto right up there. So this just gives you an idea of how big our sister solar system truly is, because when we look at these maps and these diagrams of our solar system, we don't realize how far apart these things are, right? So to give you an idea of this, let's click on Earth, zoom all the way in, and let's show our moon. Did I zoom in too far? Yes, I did. Orbital path, yes. So our Earth is 389,000 meters, okay, from our surface. Now, if we zoom out, we are 181 million kilometers. So it really just starts to get exponentially larger, and space is just so vast, it's not even funny. Okay, turn moons back off. Well, actually, yeah, orbital path. We don't want that stuff turned on. Next, body info. There's nothing we can do here. However, this does tell you everything you need to know about the planetary body that you are orbiting. It tells you the sidereal rotation. It doesn't tell you the sidereal rotation around the star, because in Aurora 4X, a game, each month is exactly 30 days. They're not 31, they're not 28, they're not 27, they're not 34, they're 30. It makes it easier for math and just done. So that makes your year 360 days long. There's no leap year, there's no jumps, you know, it's all pretty dang simple. Tells you the atmosphere, the pressure, hydrosphere, and you know, which is the liquids on the planet, and so forth and so on. All bodies. This tells you every planetary body in the solar system. So you can look at how many asteroids we have in our solar system. And these are based on real asteroids that we have scientifically identified in real life. So those are, everybody in this game for Sol is real. We have sensors, waypoints, contacts, display, body info, no, military, which is our task groups, our fleets, minerals. We want to show mineral concentrations and surveyed bodies. Now, as you can see here, as I click those, I get a highlight around Earth. This stuff is very important because it lets us know at a glance, when we're right here, how many planets and orbital bodies we have surveyed in our system. And then it also tells you what is on the planet. And then here we're looking for Where's it at? Contacts. Okay, we want to hide that. Because once the game starts generating civilian stuff, it can gets very full very quickly. There's one where it's to show colonies. Yeah, asteroids with colonies, asteroids with minerals only, geo survey points. So this tells, we'll get into that later. Mineral packet content. Highlight own colonies. So that adds a third little ring there, and that will tell us, once we start encountering other civilizations, whose property is whose. Well, folks, that's it for this time. I'm going to cut this one at a half hour because this game is very dry at times, and there's a lot of information to cover in the first couple of episodes while we get started. Next time, we will start delving into these buttons and figuring out exactly what's going on. Talk to you all later, everybody. Peace out.